Meeting April 3rd, 2025. There are you have guests or not for the privilege of the floor. Okay. Moving us to page 3, our minutes. We'll do that in minutes and then the special minutes later. So if we've received our minutes and you reviewed them, if we have a motion to accept them.
So moved. Second.
First and a second. Any other discussion or corrections? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Special minutes were really for the sole purpose of going through the audit. That's on page 4. And the minutes kind of repeat themselves in the ensuing agencies. If we've received those and reviewed them, a motion to accept those.
So moved.
I got
Second.
a first and a second and a third, so we're good. Peggy, you could just write names down. You can just write board 1, board 2. Any other discussion or corrections? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? The motion carries. The minutes are accepted. Page 8, the treasurer's report.
Do I get Jay's 12 minutes?
You get 1.2 minutes.
Well, it was not much to report on. Everything looked in line with expectations. The major changes in the balance sheet are due to some of the grants that we're going to go over later, the ARPA grants that went out last month. And other than that, that's about it. I mean, not really surprising in that. Unless somebody has a question.
I do have a quick one. Should we amend the budget to include the money for that strategic consulting? Or just,
We accepted the money last fiscal year, I believe.
Yeah, we did approve the motion. It didn't make it into the, we might have done it after the budget.
it's not in the budget.
Yeah.
There is a payment to them.
I know there's a
but it's
payment.
not in the budget.
It's just not a budget item, line item in the budget.
You have part of always amending the budgets, don't you, Lyle?
Well, if we amend the budget, that means the state gets involved and we have to report it there.
That's
We have a variance and we can explain it. I don't really see any need to amend the budget.
okay. As our auditors, don't pick up. Give us a-
Well, they will if it's needed to be picked up.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if everyone was at the last meeting. They talked about reading what, Marshall? The one question about who's reading the journals, the entries,
And
and you're doing it.
I'm doing it, you know, on the monthly basis at least, and then we're gonna do quarterly, to have, audit, yeah, look at it.
Okay.
So that's our answer to that piece,
Any other questions?
solution, I should say.
That money came from the county, but
Right.
does that have to track back to federal funds through the county? We don't have.
No.
I think it's county money. Do we have a motion to accept it?
Yes.
Yeah, we have a first, we have a second.
Second.
First and a second. Any other discussion or questions about the treasurer's report? If not, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? That motion carries. Committee reports. Jay, you are up first.
All right, so we'll set the clock. I want proof here. So real quickly. No. So real quickly, it's been a busy week, obviously. We have our Ag Development Conference coming up tomorrow. Hopefully see some of you there. I printed out the brochure. Very important topics, as you'll see. We're going to be talking about the future of insurance. The insurance industry is in crises across the nation, and it is impacting agriculture as much as anybody else. Unfortunately, about 5 minutes before I sat down here, received a phone call. We will not have Devin Furman as our speaker for that. Because of all of the storm activity over the past 24 hours, his flight has been canceled and he can't get here. So we will have the regional person, Mike Spalding, will be doing the presentation in his stead. So we had a backup plan in place and we activated it about 5 minutes before the meeting started. Then we're going to be talking about workforce. David Freund is coming up from Syracuse, from the Manufacturers Association of Central New York. This will be an excellent presentation. David is a very good speaker. We've actually had him at a conference before. He'll be talking about workforce. I fully briefed him and gave him guidance on what to do and what not to do during the meeting tomorrow. I think people can read between the lines on that. And then the final presentation will be a presentation which should be excellent. Danny Munch is an economist with American Farm Bureau Federation, speaks all over the nation about our economy, where it's going, what's happening, and what we can expect, if we can predict that right now. So I think that will also be a very good presentation. Turnout's a little bit small, around 70 people, but we'll take it. We're happy with it. It'll be at Jefferson Community College. Last but not least, I'll also be speaking along with Dr. Greg Gardner on April 10th at the Chamber of Commerce Economic Forum. And I printed out one of the things I will be touching on is the map you have in front of you, discussing the growth in dairy and the opportunities that presents, and also the challenges and how are we going to get there. So it won't be just on dairy, but obviously dairy will be a big focus of that presentation that I will do as part of the panel. Yes, sir.
Quick question. You gotta remind me, I know we've been over it before, class 1 milk versus class 2, class 3 milk.
Class 1 is fluid, used for fluid purposes. Class 2 is your cultured dairy products like yogurt, cottage cheese, sour cream. Class 3 is your hard cheeses, and class 4 is your powders.
So the fluid milk is the highest value?
Highest value, yes. Yep. And so when you look at, for example, Fairlife, which is starting, will be starting operation here, hopefully the end of the year or early next year. They are a class 1 plant. So that is the most beneficial project to have come into New York, because that helps increase the overall prices that farms will receive for the milk that they ship. So it's a very beneficial project, but we take all of them, whether it's a powder plant or a fluid plant. They're all good because they create opportunity to grow our dairy industry, which means we're growing our rural economies.
Gee, is there a county in New York State that produces, known as producing the most milk, has the most cows, has?
Yeah, so I should know this off the top of my head. Usually that is either Wyoming, it's a western county.
Ontario comes back and forth.
Yeah, it's the western 3. It's Wyoming, Wyoming.
Cayuga.
Cayuga is one of the top 4.
Ontario?
Normally,
Ontario County, I think it is.
it might be. There's 3 counties right next to each other, and they are the top producing counties in the state.
Does anything to do with here?
Yes, okay. Yes, it has everything to do with it. The cooperatives have pushed processors along the thruway corridor. It's an argument we've made for a long time. The cooperatives, the state, have pushed processing companies to build along the thruway corridor, and you can see that here in New York. It creates a challenge for us because we have potential, but trying to sell that potential with the cooperatives and others working to push along the thruway corridor makes it a real challenge. So
you've got, and then in the class designations, like the 3 plants in New York, they're not just class 1. Most of those new plants are a combination, are they not? I mean, you look at.
I'm only going by how they've listed them from the sources that we have.
Okay. All right. So the only thing I would know is a lot of those plants are multi-class.
Yeah.
Or at least more than the 1 class.
That's it.
Any other questions?
8 minutes quicker than promised.
If there was questions.
I wasn't even
asked,
counting.
I want that noted. Those were questions.
Mentally keeping track. Like an accountant. Great, we'll move on to the marketing, manufacturing,
Yeah.
co-presented, so
Yep.
go for it.
The manufacturing, Robin, do you want to touch base a little bit on, the Jeff Lewis manufacturing?
Yeah,
program we have
right,
coming up soon?
Got a great agenda. We're having, Blankenbush, Scott Gray, and, who's the third one, Marshall?
Is it, Senator Walzer?
No. Oh my God, I drew a blank. Isn't that awful? Anyways, we're having 3 representative states at our manufacturing meeting and it's gonna be more like a roundtable to hear directly from the manufacturers what problems they're seeing in government area, workforce, and regulations. So we had a good meeting, and so it's March or April 17th, right, Marshall?
I believe so.
Yeah, April 17th. So it's gonna be a really good program. Anything else you want to add to, Marshall?
No, that, one thing that, well, no, there's nothing I want to add. Sorry.
How big of a group will that draw? How many people?
We usually get the spring, we usually get about 30 people, 30, 40 manufacturers. Yep.
Where's that held?
It's gonna be held at the Zero Dock Street this year. Yep. So hopefully get a good turnout.
Anything else under marketing, manufacturing?
I will mention, from the marketing standpoint, the SDS Strategic Development Services who've been working on with our Micron Outreach Program will be here at the meeting next month to do a little presentation on how things are going. We will be having a VIP join us in a couple of weeks to tour our main development site at the airport, as well as talk to some of our local leaders, and looking forward to that.
One piece under unfinished business, it kind of repeats to all the meetings. A while ago, Peggy sent out APO training reminders for those that have finished them. Thank you very much. For those that haven't, please attend to it. It's something that we need to do every couple of years. There was like no real deadline of who needed to do it or who didn't. It's suggested annually, but I think every 2 years is okay. Okay.
Every couple of years.
Anyway, it's a good refresher.
And just a
Couple
little,
hours of time.
yeah, a little, I have to retake the APO training as well. So I guess I'll be sending out some notes on times and when I'll be doing it. If anybody wants to join me, an online thing, it probably lasts about an hour and a half or so. It's not a big deal.
Okay. ARPA, Robin, you usually take us through this?
Yep, everything's going good. It was a little quiet, but we're interests are getting trickled in, and so far it's going good. Hopefully get more this spring. Any questions?
Any questions on ARPA? The page 28, this was a recommendation from the audit where we would capitalize assets of 5,000 versus 1,000, just to kind of follow guidelines, and also I presume reduce paperwork. Anything you need to add on that, Lyle, or is that a summary of it?
No, that's
Okay.
capitalization.
So we have it. We can have somebody make a motion to accept it in second, and then we can discuss it if there are questions.
So moved.
Second.
Lisa, Paul, any other questions about what this policy is and what it's doing? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? The motion carries. The policies are changed. Now on to the shared services. Back to you, Jay, I suppose, to give us written a good email here to summarize it, but
Sure.
queue it up and then we can kind of go through the resolution.
Absolutely. I'd like to introduce Mitch McCormick. Mitch is with Cornell Cooperative Extension of Jefferson County. He's their community and economic vitality issue leader. And Marshall and I have had a great opportunity to work with Mitch on several things, but Mitch came to us recently about working together on a shared use kitchen, a 20C kitchen, which is something that has been considered for a long time here in Jefferson County. The pieces just never aligned as well as we'd like to make it happen. There is a 20C shared use kitchen in Sackett Harbor at Madison Barracks that was started several years ago. It's very small. Its location is not great as far as being accessible to a large number of people. And in all honesty, it can't handle a large number of people. It handles about the clients that it has right now. So working with Mitch, we've put together a grant proposal. Cooperative Extension, as you saw in my notes, will administer the project. We are basically the funding conduit if we receive the award. Mitch, do you have anything you want to add? I mean, I gave them a fairly detailed email about the project previously, but would you like to add anything, sir?
Yeah, well, first of all, I appreciate the collaboration effort on this. You know, Extension wasn't an eligible entity to receive the funding, and we were already collaborating, as Jay said, so it was a great fit. I assume you outlined what the proposal is, but just in a nutshell, it'll allow us to move forward with planning and architectural reviews and feasibility studies for a proposed facility.
And should we receive the award, we will put a memorandum of understanding in place just to, you know, make it a little bit more formal on how things work between our extension and ourselves. So,
Which building was that on West Main?
The 925 West Main.
What was the former building? What was it used?
Old Agway.
The old Agway. Okay. The single story off to the side, not the warehouse.
No, it's the warehouse.
The warehouse.
Warehouse, yeah.
No.
They put in, there was an addition put on, but never finished.
Right.
Okay, I'll read the resolution and we can certainly ask more questions. Page 30, resolution 04.03, 2025.01 for approval of application to North Country Regional Economic Development Council for shared use food processing facility feasibility study. Whereas Jefferson County's comprehensive economic development strategy says identifies developing and marketing local value added food products as a high priority and identifies entrepreneurship as one of the top 3 development strategies for growing the local economy. Skipping to the bottom, resolve this corporation will apply to the North Country Regional Economic Development Council for an amount not to exceed $28,980 for funds to be used to conduct an architectural review, preliminary feasibility study, hazardous material study, budget estimate, and preparation of preliminary facility business plans. And this resolution, if passed, will allow us to submit the application. So we have a motion to accept the resolution. Paul, second. Craig. The only question I have, I think it's understood, but there are no funds spent ahead of this until we get the grant.
Correct.
This isn't one of those, we spend the money, then get the grant at the end.
Well, I believe it is a reimbursable grant.
But we're not gonna do it until we know that we have a grant.
Right, yes, yeah.
Probably
No,
should have
you
asked the
can't.
question that way.
Yeah, you can't spend money and then receive the grant with
Because
this.
some of the projects have been sped up beyond, like, oh, we gotta do this tomorrow, and this
Yeah, no,
doesn't
not this.
fit that bill.
No.
Okay, that was one question.
Rob, I'm gonna abstain in this
Okay.
because if this goes through, I'll be involved in
Perfect.
the
Just
study.
more of a comment, but in all the research that I've seen and a lot of it that I've participated in, we always identify an economic opportunity as the production of local branded food products and export of those to other markets. And the thing that always gets in the way of that, or one of the things, it's always been a facility like this that could support more than what we've had. So, yeah, I think this is a highly leveraged investment in terms of economic output.
The, as it's written, I mean, the county's starting the feasibility study, the organizations, but what is the pool of contribution from the regional, like the grant? Is it just for the study, or is it actually for the help with the build out?
Right now, correct me if I'm wrong, Mitch, it's all for the study, feasibility, everything.
So the challenge will be, once the study comes out, it's finding some funding sources to build it.
Yeah,
There's nothing on the
that'll
table,
be,
nothing on the table right now.
not that I'm aware of.
Hopefully the hazardous material survey is named after.
Yeah. Mitch, is there any correction to what I
I
said?
can't guarantee it.
There are,
Some old green, moldy green is okay, but
there are a few potential, funding sources. If everything plays out as it has in the last year, and as the Northern Border Regional Commission has projected, they're a funding source. They this time are saying there will be a funding opportunity this fall for infrastructure development funds, $1 to $2 million grants. There's a few others we've identified that we're tracking as well, that have strong potential. But as you know, the funding landscape is changing right now, so we're keeping an eye on that.
Well, I like the phrase strong potential. That sounds good.
Yeah.
do we have a first, second, any other discussion before we move to vote? Okay, so all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Which
I'm
we
gonna
already
abstain,
declared?
Peggy.
Any no's besides the abstention? Okay, so we have one abstention, and then the motion will carry because there's 7. Very good.
Thank
Great
you, Mitch.
opportunity.
Thank
Thanks,
Very
Mitch.
appreciated.
We promised to keep you here only 20 minutes. I think we held our end of the bargain.
I was timing Jake too.
You
Did all right.
did.
You're a good man.
Thank
You need to invite guests to every meeting.
No, I don't. No, I don't.
Hey, your work is important. We want to hear about it. Don't take it. We just need you to get through that. Page 31, I think we have kind of 3 in a row, different parts of the ARPA grant consideration of new awards. Who wants to, I mean, they're pretty self-explanatory. Does one of you two want to read that? And
just really quickly, and please, Robin, if you have anything to add, the Metalcraft Marine Incumbent Worker Training Grant. We had a training grant in place for them that they didn't act on. Had a meeting with them probably about 3 weeks ago, reminded them about the program, and of course they're like, oh, well, we need to do this. We have this going on. We have people coming in for training for this. So I said, I think that our best move would be to rip up our previous award and move forward with a new award, a little more all-encompassing with the things that they're looking to do. Really excited about the direction of Metalcraft Marine. They're going to be growing in our community, moving to a new facility, new larger facility. Have a lot of wonderful things going on for the world's finest workboat manufacturer located in Jefferson County.
so this, how much is this replacing?
The previous one was like 2,000.
Okay, so
This is a
this
significant.
is not in addition to the
No,
two.
this is just
Okay,
no
started.
program. Yep.
The program. They want to get more of their welders more certified, because they're bringing at least 20, right, Marshall, at least 20 more welders to this facility.
It makes sense to do more work in New York State based on current landscape.
Absolutely.
Did we ever hear they rebid remember the contract with the boats where they got passed over and
Yes.
they were successful at getting the state to rebid it?
Yes. Unfortunately, they were not successful with the result of it the second
So
time,
same.
but still moving forward.
Okay. Any other questions? We'll do these one at a time. So if there's no other questions,
I'll move the resolution.
I'll second.
all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? This 20,000 grant funding is approved. Next one on page 32, small business productivity, frontline NA. Just under 10,000.
They, so Frontline is a trade show booth manufacturer. They're one of our first wins from our Canadian outreach program. That they probably came here around 2019 or so. And they're looking to basically improve their cleanup. The building that they're in is a little dusty. This is something we went through a couple of different things, and they reached out a month or so ago asking about some of the grants they heard about, and we talked about a couple things, and they came back that what they have there with the essentially the cleaning machine and then the pallet jack as being important needs for them to improve their productivity.
Marshall, where are they located?
They're in the former American Bikini Building in Dexter.
Okay. And have we worked with them in the past?
We've worked with them on a number of things. Just a lot of, when they moved here, a lot of business assistance kind of stuff.
Sure.
I don't believe we've ever given them a grant, and it's never been a situation for a pilot or anything like that. But I've actually had a great relationship with them for a number of years. I like working with them.
How many people do they employ?
I think they have probably about 10, a lean and mean operation.
Yep.
But they do great work.
Okay.
What are they building? Pallets?
No, they do trade show.
Trade show.
Oh,
booths,
booths,
right.
okay.
Yeah.
And as everybody knows, those are
Yeah.
pricey items.
High value.
Have a motion to accept this grant recommendation?
So move.
Do we have a second?
I'll
Don,
second.
is a second? I never look over here, sorry. Any other discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any abstain or no? So the grant recommendation of 9,861 is carries. And then lastly, local food resiliency, excuse me, windswept honey and apiary, Kim and Edward Fillingham, I don't need to read the rest, it's their address. Funding recommendation is $10,000 with some in kind. Whomever.
And I would ask if anybody has any questions. It's pretty straightforward. We've handled a lot of honey applications in the past. Does anybody have any questions I can answer?
I know we've handled ones and I couldn't find my list. They've not received a grant.
Fillingham's no.
Okay. Then I move the resolution.
We have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, any other discussion or questions? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? That grant funding carries. We have a motion to adjourn the meeting, or are there any other business we've overlooked?
So moved.
For adjourn, okay. Second?
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed or abstained? I hope not. We stand adjourned. That'll move us to our IDA. Packet. See everyone later. Take care.
Right.
The minutes,
Okay,
starting on page 3. So we have 2 sets of minutes. We do it just like the last meeting. So the normal minutes are on page 3. They've been received and reviewed. That's a motion to accept them as presented. Okay, we have a second.
I'll second.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any abstaining or opposed? The motion carries. Minutes are page 8. Again, it was for the purpose of reviewing the audit, so they're pretty much the same as the prior agency. Okay, second, please.
I'll second it.
Ed, any other discussion? Barring that, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? That motion carries. Treasurer's report, page 11, I believe. starts.
Not much of interest to report, but I do have a quick question, Marshall.
Yeah.
Where we did a pilot agreement for a project. Do we have an idea when we're gonna close?
June.
June?
Yep.
Okay.
Do you mean the Sapphire Solar?
Yes.
Yes. And that has been, talked to Justin about it, as well as Diana from AES, and all systems go.
Very good. I mean, that's one thing I've been,
Where's that?
since it's in Hounsfield on Route, off of Route 3, right? I've been concerned over the years about some of these have gone years out and we've never closed on them, so that's good. The only other thing I'd like to talk about is Colleen's Cherry Tree Inn. We're 4 months out on those. And we did send, unless they've made a payment since these were.
There's like a $30 payment.
Yeah, there's.
Or is that a?
No, that's a charge for a bounce.
Bounce
Okay,
check.
sorry.
She
Yep.
reached out, I had sent her, notice how far she's behind. She emailed me and said she's quit, this week. And said that she's gonna send in payment, and I said, that's great, especially now that she's open. I said, please keep your payments current and, make extra payments to bring the whole, up to date.
My real question was, when we were 4 months out on the Amish furniture place, we started contacting them, but you contacted them, so we're right where what I wanted to hear is that we're treating them and their delinquency the same as we have others.
Yes.
So, very good. That's the only thing I have to report, you'll get to our projects, nothing. We have Taste of Design, that one's getting out there again, 3 months.
I reached out to him also, and
Very
he said
good.
he's sending in payment.
They were
And I
closed
think the other,
part of the winter.
Yeah.
I think they just reopened.
and the other two may be a subject that we have. an
Yeah, we have a
executive session.
consideration of an executive session later to talk about.
And that's all I have to
loans and
report. The
default.
balance sheet looks good from what we would have expected it to be.
But it's surprising we're only 4,000 in the hole, so our expenses are keeping pace
So
with
far.
our low revenues. So I guess that's good that we have low expenses, but it's disappointing we have low revenue as well, but
I look
luckily they're
forward-
only 4,000 different.
I look forward to pilot payments,
Okay.
And that's all, and I move the treasurer's report.
We have a second.
Second.
Any other discussion or questions? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain? That motion carries. Paul, I guess staying with you, alternative energy, anything to report?
I have
Good job.
nothing to report
Okay.
unless somebody has a question.
So the question is, and actually, Bill and I were talking the other day. We have talked about getting a meeting with one of the major solar developers to at least start talking about what their ideas on a pilot might be. We haven't done that yet.
We can, I'd be picking the project in the town of Lime, the AES one,
Mhm.
since they have the most going. If
Mhm.
they're willing to come in and talk to us how they want to proceed.
We talked about getting those discussions started sooner than later.
Marshall, do you have a contact for AES?
I do, and I will absolutely set that up.
It's fine with me. I think we need to know, I'd like to know what their new proposed schedule is with all we're dealing with.
Exactly. Right.
And what are they looking for?
Right. Okay.
So,
And how that's all tying to national grids build out,
Mhm.
the transmission.
I think it'd be good to.
well, there was just an article I read in one of the magazines about the new costs, the inflation costs are slowing down all these developments.
Mhm.
And I don't know how the tariffs are gonna affect those too.
You're waiting to see. Yeah. But there's still new projects in the North Country being advanced, big ones.
Solar,
Solar. Oh, yeah.
I think, what I see on the landscape, it's getting closer and closer.
I know there
So
are
I
a couple big
haven't-
ones in
there
St.
haven't-
Lawrence County that are coming.
I haven't seen any new filings on any of the real projects you got 3 projects that are permitted. You got Boralex, AES, Riverside, and Tracy. And none of those have had any real filings other than Boralex, where they reduced the size.
Right.
They combined an Ellisburg project into Hounsfield, but they're using larger panels and I think bifacial panels
Yeah,
now.
more, yeah,
And they've reduced. the
higher
footprint.
capacity panels, right? Yep.
That's the only real change. And a revised take, whatever that means, it must be about how many animals they're gonna kill.
But to me, all these projects are incurring significant capital cost. through lease payments. All these people, I mean, these people are getting paid lease payments with nothing going on. So, and I mean, they're incurring, they're chalking up
They're
hundreds of
getting
thousands
lease
of
payments
dollars every.
now, or they just have option payments?
No, most of them are getting the Shimo. A lot of people in Shimo are getting payments.
From AES?
A little twist, different twist we've seen is some of these companies are starting to purchase some of this property.
Well, you take Borlex, it's gonna be a combination lease
Both,
and purchased.
Yeah, there's a couple in St. Lawrence County where there's possibility they may purchase them.
If you look at,
What's
well,
the-
the only other thing to point out is that there was a Supreme Court challenge to the valuation model, and the valuation model was thrown out for this year. I think we talked about it
Right.
last month.
We did.
I'm getting a lot of calls from some of the assessors I've helped what to do, and I'd still use it.
Right.
Just in case it's overturned by the courts mid-year and you don't have to make adjustments mid-year to assessments and screw everything up. Most of them, it's only gonna affect special district taxes. But in Henderson, there's a project that I'm working with the assessor, and they're gonna make it fully taxable for county purposes, Ryan, because they've never bothered to negotiate a pilot tax, but they have a pilot tax with the school in the town. And Rob and I sat in a meeting years ago with them.
Still not energized either, so.
Yes, it is.
Oh, is it finally?
They received a letter that it was energized at the end of last year.
Doesn't look like it. Panels are always pointing straight up, so I think the sun moves, panels don't.
Well,
Good Deerfield.
They did send a letter to the assessor saying it was energized, so.
I guess that's good.
But, so that'll be interesting to see whether or not they challenge the denial of the exemption for county purposes. So, but that's what grievance days are for.
Don't like what I see with a solar plant on our end of the county. It's almost getting in a state of neglect. Panels are hanging, falling to the wind.
Which one is that? The former Hoyas?
Yeah, which was very substandard work when it was installed, I'm sorry. And now it's been sold, and I don't know who the responsible party is, but the maintenance is going to hell on that one. What town is that?
Orleans and
Orleans. Yeah. State of disrepair is.
Is that the one that's right along 12?
12 and the Robinson Road.
Robinson Road 1 and 2?
Well, it extends up to there.
Those were all locally approved projects. You would think if they're in disrepair, it'd be what the resolutions were in the planning board approval.
It's not a state where there's a state of affairs where there's 80 panels flying in the wind or anything, but it's a case where there's 4 here, actuators aren't working. You know, you've got that twisted scenario going on. Some panels have wind damage and need to be repaired. It's starting to present itself.
I noticed there's a project in Luray. I'm trying to think which one it was where they had the sheep in there, and grazing sheep for grass control just does not work.
No.
It's horrible. So, I mean, that's another thing to consider when they talk about that alternative to having. Well, that's been everyone's concern.
Many of those early projects, were handled by local planning boards or local boards that didn't reach out and get expert legal and technical advice, which would have put everything in place to provide that oversight and they're learning.
Yeah. My favorite project in Chinook, you drive down the road, they've got screening plantings that are about this tall, and 3/4 of them are dead already. And whether or not they got the teeth to force them to.
Those have been lessons learned by many of the local communities.
I don't mean to jump in, but I mean, Ryan's talked about coming up with a universal planning document for these facilities, so those things where they're handled locally can be handled better.
Can I add a couple things?
Sure.
Please.
Absolutely.
So that document, we hope, I haven't reviewed it yet, but we're hoping that that'll be presented to the board in April. So we're moving forward with that. There's not much teeth at the county level, but we can endorse a best practice that kind of has the county blessing that, and encourage communities that actually have taken those steps in the right direction, but things change very quickly. You know, these local laws now need to include battery storage language. You know, we've learned some lessons about screening and setbacks and stuff. So we're pushing forward with that. Another thing that you might hear is that New York Power Authority published a document last week that identified projects. You may have heard that the state gave them authority to not just regulate, but also produce energy in New York State. They've identified preliminarily 2 projects in the North Country that may be projects they'd be interested in owning, not just regulating. One of them is in Jefferson County, one of them is in Lewis County. And I can't remember off the top of my head which one in Jefferson, but
I think it's Bean Corners.
Yep.
Yes, there you go. Okay.
So it's solar, it's not hydro. It's
No,
solar.
solar, yes. I did call Jeff Farrell with New York Power Authority and we chatted briefly, but he said, don't panic. It's very, very, very early in the process. And he said, we will honor any tax agreements that have been put in place. And
that's what I was gonna say. Will that take them off the tax roll also?
yes, it will, but you'll have to negotiate a separate agreement with them, which, you know, it was just in the news a couple weeks ago, you know, the new deal they've negotiated with St. Lawrence County up in Messina for the hydro. So they come to the table, they, you know, they recognize they need to spread the wealth on these things. So just FYI.
Will they be talking about leasing land or owning them?
Owning
The project, the whole project,
the whole thing.
Is land
owning,
included?
maintaining, running.
Yes, yes.
So no fluff with the parcels, the whole
No.
thing.
That's the rumor in Lewis County is that one of the projects identified is the large Krogan sugar maple project. And the rumor is that they're executing options on those lease agreements because they're prepping for complete sale to NIPA. So.
And that project does extend a little bit into Jefferson County as well.
Champion, or I'm sorry,
Yeah, well,
Anything else under alternative energy? Good information.
But I will just say, my observation is like, here's what we know, here's what the public knows, and here's this other whole layer of what's really driving the forces that is obscure. It's kind of below ground a little bit, and this just, you know, reaffirms what's going on.
I agree. One thing I forgot to add real quick, the county has had a stance that solar in the state code, solar is exempt from building permits if you choose. The county stance has been to allow that exemption. We are reversing that stance. We want these projects to get permits and pay permit fees, and you know, we'll be right there with the municipalities enforcing the codes that they've established. So
If NIPA goes, do they buy a project? Are they buying projects that are already permitted, or are they going to go through the permitting process, or is there going to be no permitting really?
I can't answer that.
Okay.
Sounds like the projects are considering ORA's controlled projects.
Yes.
There would be permits.
That's the conspiracy.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
The state's controlling the taxation, the location, and ownership. So
Yes.
kind of a stacked deck.
Well, you know, when these start negotiating pilots, you're dealing with an 800-pound gorilla too.
Sure.
So
Sure.
hopefully that happens after somebody else has solar.
The other thing I observe is that is right in sync with federal policy, current administration for kicking out hurdles in front of build out and also priorities for new power generation. That's a priority. So it's all in sync.
John, anything under building and grounds?
Nothing new, although Marshall, I think we need to schedule a meeting.
Yep.
There are some things that I think we need
absolutely
to
are.
tie up.
Yep.
So if we could get a meeting scheduled.
All right, if we have an executive session, let's move it to the end, because we do have a resolution, CWT Farms, under unfinished business. one will definitely be discussed in executive session if we go into it, but we have a couple defaults that we need to get updated on, and there's a road entrance sign that Michael wants to update us on just briefly. If you want to just update us now under unfinished business, and then we can kind of, if we do have to take any action, we can do that in public, but you can kind of just update us briefly, and then we can discuss it more in executive session.
Okay.
Because it has to do with land acquisition, et cetera.
So I would like to discuss the current situation with our corporate park sign and its location. We've run into a bit of a roadblock on that issue. So.
Okay. We'll quickly move to new business. We have the fixed asset policy again. It's on page 24. It's identical to what we did before from the audit. We're capitalizing fixed assets at 5,000 versus 1,000. It was a suggestion from the auditors, and we have a motion to accept this amended policy. Paul, any second?
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? The motion carries. And keeping open the possibility for executive session at the end of the meeting, we'll move to, I guess it's at the end of the package, right? Yeah, 26, project authorizing resolution. Do you want to queue this up? Either of you? I mean, it looks like it's just an extension of time, or is it additional benefits?
Extension of time and benefits. Jay has been spearing up this project issue, so please, Jay, if you have any comments.
Yeah, it's a small increase in the sales tax abatement, I believe total of $4,000. They have work that they still have to do, basically landscaping and so on at the facility. They were looking at wanting to have the deadline be June 1st, but we said you better go to October 1st just to give yourself the time to get the project done so we don't have to do this again. So it is an extension of time to October 1st, and then an increase in the total value of the benefit. I don't have the paperwork in front of me.
It says 420 not to exceed, so I'm assuming it was
it's a small
416 before or
yeah,
something.
it's a small increase in the
because they're highlighted and underlined, so I assume they were changed.
Yeah.
I don't know what they were changed from.
Yeah.
Because the way this is worded, it should have said was and is.
Yeah.
Key point being is that it's less than $100,000, so we don't have to go back through the entire.
And it looks like the project cost must have gone up because that's also underlined for it.
Yeah. Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
This is primarily due to the fact that the estimate we received when we did the pilot tax for the sales tax abatement, the sales tax taxable items were greater than they had projected, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Yes.
And you're saying around 4,000 to 5,000.
Yes. Off the top of my head, and I apologize, I didn't grab it.
No,
but
that's good.
it's a
That was going to
small-
be my question because this looks like it's worded as an additional 420,000. It's like, wow, that's kind of a big miss.
Yeah, no. It's a relatively small increase in the value of the sales tax.
Makes greater sense that the bold and underlined values are changes, but it's not worded.
If you recall, several years ago, that was pointed out by somebody that we weren't doing this, that projects were claiming more sales tax when they sent them in, and we needed to clean this up. So if you're not, are you going to read the resolution? Because I'd be happy to sponsor it.
Yeah, I will read it. Project authorizing resolution, CWT Farms International Inc. project extension, resolution 04.03.2025.01, resolution of the Jefferson County Industrial Development Agency authorizing an extension in connection with a certain project previously undertaken for the benefit of CWT Farms International Inc., the company, and the execution and delivery of an amendment to agent agreement and related documents with respect to the project. The second whereas clause, the location hasn't moved. It cites the tax parcel and address. And the fifth whereas, sixth whereas clause gives the total not to exceed benefit, already said, not to exceed 420,000, which is an addition of about less than 5,000. And then the project value is stated. So with that, there's a motion to accept. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any other discussion or questions? It's a roll call vote if not. Okay, please.
Rob,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Lisa,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
Paul.
Yes.
Sounds like it carries.
Think it passed.
Okay, we had consideration of, is there, I suppose there's nothing else under council, or he's not here anyway, so.
Steve
Steve
is-
is in his place.
Okay. Sorry, Steve.
No problem. No.
So,
If you guys want, just for clarification purposes on that CWT, I was able to pull up the old resolution. The prior total sales tax exemption was 416,806, so it's actually just a little bit under 4,000 this year.
yeah, that's good to know.
Thank you.
Yep.
I couldn't find the old one. It was done so long ago, so I didn't save things that long ago.
Neglected to
It's
grab.
probably on our web page.
I've got it on my desk.
So we had consideration of an executive session. One of them is to really review and update where we are with the 2 loan defaults. And then we can talk about some land acquisition matters relative to the signage. And if there are some actions on either of these, we can do that in public. But do we wish to have an executive session to get updated? And if so, I guess somebody needs to make a more formal resolution. Bill, for the purpose of legal matters and financial data, I guess is good enough.
Potential land acquisition.
Very good.
Also,
Do we have a second?
And
And we're gonna keep
identify
all
our-
staff and council.
And the county administrator.
Yes, and county administrator. Which basically everybody online and in the room. That's easy. So we just have to shut the doors. Excuse me before. Everyone accept this? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain? We will go into